Hey guys, so I'm going to show you guys how I do my heatless curls overnight. Now I will say I have developed minor scalp psoriasis over the past year and a half, so my routine has changed quite a bit. With scalp psoriasis, I have noticed that my hair gets greasier way faster, it gets clumped up way faster, and so I actually prefer to do it same day, like the heatless curls same day. Like for instance, I'll wake up in the morning, take a shower, let my hair air dry. If I'm kind of in a rush, I will go in and blow dry it a little bit, but I do tend to prefer to let it air dry to almost 90% to almost completely dry, which I find works a lot better, especially if you have very straight hair that really struggles to hold a curl. I do notice that it works better when your hair is almost completely dry. If you have a naturally wavy or curly hair pattern, it will work better if your hair is slightly damp. However, for my straight hair girlies who struggle to hold a curl, I would say try it with your hair at least 90% dry to completely dry, and it'll hold the curl a lot better. So, like I said, if you don't really have scalp psoriasis, I would say overnight does work best because the longer you keep it in, the better your curls are gonna look. However, if you're like me and you have scalp psoriasis, just make sure your hair is clean, and what I recommend is obviously washing. Like if you are going to do it overnight, wash it before, let it dry for a couple hours, and then put the heatless curls in, like the curl, whatever you're using. I like to use this, which we'll get into, but just shower before and make sure your scalp is clean. I know that really depends on the person. Some people wash their hair once every couple days, once a week, whatever it is. I like to wash mine right before, or at least if I am going to do it overnight, I wash it the night before, right before I'm about to put in my heatless curls after my hair dries. So I like to use the string from my robe, and I just find it works a lot better, especially because I have really long hair, and as you can see, it's like on a different note, like super damaged from the color and just like gets tangled super easily. But essentially, I take the string from my robe. Any string will do. Sometimes you can do this with the long socks as well. I don't really like using the curlers that you can buy, like those tube looking things, because I just find them really uncomfortable and also too thick, and they never fit all of my hair because it's just so long that by the time I get to the bottom, it's like there's nothing, no more tube left to kind of curl the rest of my hair. So the string from my robe always works better because it's super long and it's not like super thick, like it's like pretty thin, and so like my curls just feel more defined. So I just personally think like you don't need to buy one of those heatless curl tools. You can literally just use the string from your robe and it looks really good, and your curls are going to be more defined and you're going to have a tighter curl pattern versus using the ones you see on Shein and like Amazon where you can buy in the store. Like they just don't work that well in my opinion. First things first is you're gonna want to make sure your hair is combed out, free of knots. For me, that's a bit of a struggle because my hair is damaged, as I mentioned, from bleaching it couple times like a year ago. It's grown out now. Still don't really know what to do with my hair. That's still something I'm figuring out, if I want to color it again or if I want to just go back to black. I'm not really sure yet, but we're just gonna work with what we have. I think what I've been trying to do is just grow out my hair and then kind of decide what I'm gonna do with it. Like the top part is like very healthy. It's just like this bottom part that's like super hard to deal with, and then on top of that it's really long, so it just gets tangled naturally pretty easily. But essentially you're gonna want to make sure that your hair's combed out, doesn't have any knots. I like to split mine as much in the middle as I can. I'm not very good at splitting my hair straight, but it's fine. It doesn't have to be perfect. Now I take my string from the robe, my robe string we'll call it, and I like to try to make sure it's like even down here, like evenly, you know, even on both sides. And then what I do is I like to put it right on my head like so, and I will kind of clip this into place with a hairband just so it doesn't move like this. And then I will start on one side and then I'll go to the other side. I like to take small sections, so you don't want the sections to be too chunky. Well, you can if that's your preference. Like if you want to have like a not as much of a tight curl, then you could probably do larger sections, but I like to have tighter curls, so I kind of like to do smaller sections. And what I'll do is I'll grab it starting from the top and then work my way down. So I'll grab this section and I'll like make sure that it's combed out, so no tangles. You're gonna take the string and you're just gonna wrap it around tight and keep it tight. Like keep it tight like this, wrap it around, and as I'm wrapping it around, I add more hair. So again, another section. I added to that first section that I had already put around the string. So then you're gonna do the same thing, go under, and make sure you're holding it tight. And then you're just gonna keep adding sections. So add another section here. And then it becomes one, right? And then you pull it tight around the string. And you're gonna do that all the way down until you reach down here. So I'm just gonna quickly keep adding sections in. Again, adding another section. Keeping the sections somewhat small. And you're gonna pull it under and out like that. And then as you're going, just keep adding more sections. So we're like halfway there. As you can see, you just wanna like try to make sure it's tight as you're going around the string. Like you don't want it to be loose. Otherwise, like your curls are it's just not gonna stay. Especially once you like tie it together at the bottom, it's just gonna like fall loose and it's just not gonna give you the pattern you want, and it's also it's just not gonna work. Okay, normally when I get towards the bottom, I start to braid it. Now some people don't like doing the braid at the bottom. They'll kind of just like take this section and whatever's left and kind of just cross it around. Like I don't know how to explain it, but like cross it around instead of braiding it. But I just find that it's much easier to braid. So what I'll do is I'll use this like string as like a third section of hair essentially. And so I'll take what's left and I will start braiding it around, just like a regular braid. So kind of like so. And then also like what I do is sometimes, because my hair is like different lengths because it's layered, I usually, to make it easier, sometimes I'll put this in my mouth like this, and then I'll take and I'll kind of resection it out, and I'll just kind of braid it down. Now I didn't exactly do it perfect, but it's fine, it'll still turn out good. But essentially, like especially when you get down to that bottom section here, you kind of want to do it as tight as you can because you don't want it to be loose. So once I get to the bottom, I try to braid it as far down as I can. And like I said, it is a bit difficult because I do have layers, so it's just, you know, it's hard to braid it all the way down, but I try my best. Even if there's a little leftover like this, what I'll usually do is I will kind of pinch it here together, and I will take the robe and kind of fold it over like so into like this little loop. And then I'll take the hairband and I'll kind of just tie it there, tie that loop together a couple times to make sure it doesn't come out. and then I just leave it like this. So this part right here is a little bit messy, but it's fine. But essentially this is what it looks like once it's all done, and then I'll just work on the other side. So this is the hair with both sides braided, or I shouldn't say braided, but both sides essentially done. Yeah, it's a little uneven. I did end up making this side a little bit tighter. It's kind of hard to do it just looking at myself in the camera versus a mirror, but essentially this is what it looks like. I do want to play around in the future with doing like a middle braid too, like in the back, because this still looks good, but what I do want to play around with is that when you do it this way, it's like there's a lot of volume here, but then this, you know, back section here doesn't have as much volume. It's kind of like a little bit flat, so I do want to play around with that. But this is like my normal way of doing heatless curls with that rope string, so we'll just do it this way for now, but future video possibly kind of playing around with doing a different technique as well for like a three sections type of heatless curls. But yeah, so essentially you just relax. You just go about your day. If you're doing it during the day, do some chores, do some errands. Well, I don't know about errands. I don't know if you can, like if you want to go out like this, it's fine. But essentially now all you do is just wait. If you're doing it overnight, just go to sleep. At least try to keep it in for 8 hours if you can. If you are doing it during the day, I will say same thing. The longer you keep it in, the better it's gonna look, the more defined your curls are gonna be. But I shoot for at least 5 hours minimum, so if I'm doing it during the day, I try to keep it in for at least 5 hours. But I would recommend to keep it in for 8 to 10 hours. But sometimes we just don't have the time for that, so I would say at least try 5. At least 5 hours. I'm gonna go wash my face and go to bed, and then I will show you guys in the morning when I take out the curls, or my process of what I do when I wake up, because there is an extra added bit that I do before I take them out. So I will see you guys in the morning. So this is the next morning. I'm gonna go ahead and take out the curls, but first what I like to do is I like to use hairspray. So right now I'm just using the Pantene Flexible Hold Finishing Hairspray. This is a hold level of 3. It's not my favorite because it does kind of give you a crunchiness if you put too much or if you're spraying too close. A good alternative is this other brand, which I'll put up on screen. However, that brand is a little bit pricier. But what I do like about that hairspray is that it gives you hold without making your hair super crunchy. However, right now, this is what I have, so we are going to use this Pantene hairspray, and I do think the smell is nice though. I will say the smell is nice, it's just not my favorite hairspray of all time. So what I like to do is I like to spray it for kind of like a little bit further away, and I spray the top as well. It's a little bit harder to do the right side. So next I will go in and blow dry it on like a medium heat setting. I'm gonna mute this part because it is quite loud. I'm just gonna go ahead and do that really quick. Alright, it's finally time to take out the braids. So I'm gonna go ahead and just start taking them out. You want to do this part a little bit gentle because you do want to try to avoid frizz. So obviously start at the bottom and work your way up. So I kind of like to do this side first, since I did start with the right side. Gently, you know, pulling apart like so. And then once I get to this point, I start to take out the other side. So far it's looking like this on the bottom. I start to take out the other side. Again, trying to be gentle when you're separating the hair from the string. And then once I get to this part, I will kind of do both sort of at the same time. It doesn't really matter. All you gotta keep in mind is to be gentle when you're, you know, taking it out. So gently pulling each section out from the string. And it's gonna look a little bit messy at first, but it's okay. We're gonna fluff it out, sort of. I'm gonna go ahead and do this side. Okay, almost there. We're gonna pull this out and then we're gonna remove the string. Right now it's looking kind of crazy, but what I like to do now, and I don't always do this step because as I mentioned earlier last night, I do have scalp psoriasis, so usually if I'm going out or if I'm doing this for an event or a day look, I don't really like to use oils in my hair too much during the day, only because my hair already gets greasy super fast and it gets built up really fast from the scalp psoriasis. Usually if I'm gonna use oil, I do it as like a hair mask at night, but essentially at this point, if you wanna reduce the frizz a little bit, you can put a little bit of oil into your curls a little bit so it's not as frizzy. So I'm trying this new product. It's like Aussie Miracle Moist Intense Hydration Oil with avocado oil. The reason why I went with this brand is because I just like the way Aussie's product smells. It always smells super good. The other option I usually use is this oil over here. This is more of like a natural oil. So it has more of like a natural fragrance to it. So usually I use that one at home. But if I'm going out, I kind of want to smell good, so I want to have something with a little bit more fragrance. So what I'm going to do is I just put a little bit into my hand, and you can see it's like shiny. I'm just going to rub that into my hands, not directly on the hair. I'm just going to rub it into my hands, and then I'm going to slowly like separate some of these, you know, some of these curls. The other thing too is like it's gonna be a little bit difficult to avoid a lot of frizz only because my hair is quite damaged, so there will probably still be some slight frizz in my hair. But I'm just gonna coat it a little bit. Separate some of these in the front. I'm gonna do like a little hair flip. Kind of like try to comb it through with my fingers, but not too much. So this is what we're looking like right now. It is a bit frizzy towards the top, but I think it still looks cute. Like I said, you can use more hair oil to kind of like tone down that frizziness. But because I've mentioned a few times, have a little bit of damaged hair. It's just hard to avoid completely. But essentially, this is what it's looking like. This is if you want to keep it parted in the middle. Sometimes what I'll do for more volume is I will kind of do like a side part. And like I said, I do want to play around with doing like a third section braid because what I find is that there's a lot of volume right here, but the back is a little bit flat. So I am going to play around with that in the future, but essentially, this is what it looks like. And what I like to do sometimes at this point is I will go in with the hairspray again and kind of just do like a pass, and then do this side. I don't want to put too much because I don't want my hair to be super crunchy, so focusing on spraying from a far distance. You don't want to spray too close because then you're going to have like a lot of crunchiness depending on the hairspray you use. I'm going to have a few clips on screen just with different lighting with my hair. I think it looks amazing. I think it turned out great. Like I said, there is a bit of frizz on the top, but honestly, I think it turned out amazing, and I think today I'm going to keep it split in the middle. Like I said, sometimes I do like a side part. However, I kind of like the way it's looking in the middle, and I kind of like that messy, like I don't mind a little bit of frizz. I think it is like this messy, more natural look. Now, like I said, the back is quite a little flat, the top is a little bit flat, so that's something I want to play around with in the future. I think like doing like a third braid, starting from like the middle section, could kind of help give it a little bit more volume. You could also use, you know, like volumizing mousse or different leave-in conditioners or curling mousse before you put in the braids. Essentially, like you could use those products after you shower to kind of give it more volume, even more curl. Like I said, the only reason I didn't go in with a ton of product beforehand is because I do have scalp psoriasis, so I don't want to clog my scalp up with too much product. Otherwise, my hair will get greasy super fast and the curls will just not last and it'll start to fall even flatter. In my case. That is my video for heatless curls. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please like, comment, subscribe for more videos like this, and I will see you guys in the next video.